Good evening, everybody. Andarki సాయంకాలం వేళ అందరికీ నమస్కారం. ధరిత్రి దినం ఈ నెల 22వ తారీఖు నాడు ప్రపంచ ఇంటర్నేషనల్ ఎర్త్ డే, ప్రపంచ ధరిత్రి దినం. దాన్ని పురస్కరించుకొని ఈరోజు ఈ కార్యక్రమాన్ని ఏర్పాటు చేసుకోవడం జరిగింది. అంటే దీంట్లో I take the pleasure of introducing one of my good friends, Swati Mishra, and I also thank Dr. James for introducing Swati to this forum, August forum. And so Swati has taken a lot of pain to do a presentation here. Mostly, and the presentation will be in English, as she is not aware of. Telugu language. And a brief introduction of Swati Mishra. Swati has pursued a BSc Environmental Sciences, Maharaja Sayajirao University, Baroda. MSc Environment Management, Forest Research University, Dehradun. And she is now a doctoral candidate, Institute of Wood Science and Technology, Bangalore. She worked as a chemist in Atul Limited, environment chemist in Atul Limited.
Yes.
She worked on many more institutions.
Yeah. She's an upcoming environment leader from India. I have no doubt in expressing that.
Thank you, sir. But my work has mostly been limited to human settlements and geopolitical conflict areas. Most of my major works actually were with a firm based in Delhi. So I worked as a business developer for them, and I worked on a Afghanistan project where they are trying to redevelop the urban infrastructure and Beirut resilience plan in Lebanon. So people are coming to know more about the climate resilience and the importance of environment resilience altogether, and the changes taking place all over the world. But I think one of my best projects has been at Kamlakonda in Visakhapatnam. It's a beautiful mixture of ecology and architecture and archaeology.
Okay, thank you, Swati. Yeah. So Swati, okay. ఈరోజు ఈ సబ్జెక్టును మనం ఎంచుకున్న దానికి ప్రపంచ పర్యావరణము కంప్లీట్ గా అస్తవ్యస్తమైన పరిస్థితుల్లో ఈ యొక్క అంశాన్ని అంశాన్ని తీసుకోవడం జరిగింది. Somebody is talking somewhere. Everybody is muted. Yeah, okay. మనం అయితే ఈ రోజు ఈ అంశాన్ని తీసుకోవడానికి కంప్లీట్ గా మరి పర్యావరణాన్ని ఒక వస్తువుగా చూసి ఇవాళ కార్పొరేట్స్ కంప్లీట్ గా పర్యావరణాన్ని దెబ్బతీసి యాక్చువల్లీ మనం ఈరోజు అనుకున్న విషయాలు చూస్తుంటే ఈరోజు ఎంత అస్తవ్యస్తంగా అగమ్య గోచరంగా ఉందంటే ఇక్కడ మనము మార్క్స్ కనుక గుర్తు చేసుకుంటే వాట్ మార్క్స్ సెడ్ ఈస్ ఈచ్ అకార్డింగ్ టు హిస్ నెసెసిటీస్ అండ్ ఈచ్ అకార్డింగ్ టు హిస్ కెపాసిటీస్. మనము మరి ఈ పర్యావరణాన్ని ఎందుకు ఎంత దోస్తున్నాము, అంటే మనకి ఎంత అవసరం ఉంటుంది, హౌ మచ్ వి నీడ్. ఈ దోపికాన్ని ఎట్లా ఆపాలి? we have to take that much and we have to leave the rest of the environment or the natural resources to the next generations. అసలు ఈ జనరేషన్స్ కు సరిపోయేంత ఇక్కడే మొత్తం ధరిత్రిని మనం అసలు ధరిత్రిని మనం ధరిత్రికి ఎంత ఏడుస్తున్నదో మనం చూడాల్సిన అవసరం ఉంది. ముఖ్యంగా కార్బన్ రిలేటెడ్ ఇంత మనం చేస్తున్న ఈ సందర్భంలో మనం ఈ రోజు ఈ అంశాన్ని ఎంచుకోవడం, తెలంగాణ జనవేదిక ప్రతి ఆదివారం ఒక కొత్త అంశాన్ని తీసుకొని ఆ అంశంపై చర్చ చేయడము, ఆ చర్చలో భాగంగానే ఈరోజు ఈ అంశాన్ని తీసుకోవడం జరిగింది. అయితే ఇప్పుడు నేను సోది పెట్టి మీకు బోర్ కొట్టించే బదులు I would hand over the mic to Professor Aptota Srinivasulu to be a moderator and hand over the mic to Swati Mishra later. Thank you so much.
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you. Sir, are you listening? Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Telangana Jana Vedika Zoom online meeting కు విచ్చేసినటువంటి స్వాతి మిశ్రా గారికి మరియు వేదిక సభ్యులు, మిత్రులు అందరికీ నా సాయంకాల నమస్కారాలు తెలియజేసుకుంటూ, ఇవాళ అసలు వాస్తవానికి చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్ అయినటువంటి సబ్జెక్టు. మేజర్గా ప్రపంచ ధరిత్రి దినోత్సవం అంటే భూమి దినోత్సవాన్ని మనం జరుపుకున్నటువంటి ఈ సందర్భం లోపల అసలు ఇవాళ ప్రపంచం లోపల పర్యావరణం ఎలా ఉంది, భారతదేశంలో పరిస్థితి ఏంది, తెలంగాణ ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్లో కూడా ఏ రకమైనటువంటి పర్యావరణ లేదా విషయాల మీద ఏ మేరకు అవగాహన కలిగి ఉన్నాం, మనం ఈ భూమిని కాపాడుతున్నామా లేదా వినాశనం చేస్తున్నామా అనేటువంటిది కూడా, ఈ పర్యావరణాన్ని ఏ రకంగా రక్షిస్తున్నాం, ఏ రకంగా వినాశనం చేస్తున్నాం అనేటివి కూడా మనము ఇవాళ చర్చించుకోవాల్సినటువంటి ముఖ్యమైనటువంటి అంశంగానే నేను భావిస్తున్నాను. అందుకే ఇవాళ చాలా మంచి టాపిక్లు మనం సెలెక్ట్ చేసుకున్నాం. ఎందుకంటే సుస్థిర భావన, పర్యావరణ పునఃపృష్టి అంటే మళ్ళీ తిరిగి ఎలా మనము పర్యావరణాన్ని సరి అయినటువంటి పద్ధతిలో గతంలో ఉండేటువంటి పర్యావరణ ఎలాగైతే ఉందో ఇప్పుడు తీసుకురాగలమా అనేటువంటిది కూడా మనం చర్చించుకుంటున్నామంటే చాలా గొప్ప విషయం ఇది. ఇంతవరకు ఈ కాన్సెప్ట్ అంటే పర్యావరణాన్ని పునఃపృష్టి ఎట్లా చేయాలి అనేటువంటి ఆలోచన విధానమే చాలా మేరకు ఎక్కడ కూడా ఈ భావన రాలేదు, ఈ కాన్సెప్ట్ ఎక్కడ కూడా తీసుకురాలి. కానీ మొట్టమొదటిసారిగా తెలంగాణ జన వేదిక తీసుకురావడం అనేటువంటి గొప్ప విషయంగా నేను భావిస్తూనే, ముందుగా ఇక్కడ మనం సస్టైనబుల్ డెవలప్మెంట్ అంటున్నాం, సుస్థిర అభివృద్ధి అంటున్నాం. సుస్థిర అభివృద్ధి అంటే అభివృద్ధికి సుస్థిర అభివృద్ధికి చాలా తేడా ఉంటుంది. ఇక్కడ అభివృద్ధి సుస్థిర అభివృద్ధికి చాలా తేడాను కనుక మనం గమనించినట్లయితే, అభివృద్ధి అనేటువంటిది కొంతమందికి అంటే ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఒక ప్రాజెక్టు నిర్మించడం అనేటువంటిది ఒక అభివృద్ధి అయితే, అది ఎవరికి అభివృద్ధి? ఒక పారిశ్రామికవేత్తకు, లేదా ఒక ఎలక్ట్రానిక్ లేదా ఒక విద్యుత్ శక్తి కరెంటు పుట్టించేటువంటి ఒక ప్రాజెక్టు నిర్మించినట్టయితే ఆ యొక్క పారిశ్రామికవేత్తకు అది అభివృద్ధిగా కనబడుతుంది. కానీ అక్కడ ఉండేటువంటి ఆ ప్రాజెక్టు భూభాగంలో ఉండేటువంటి నిర్వాసితులు ఎవరైతే ఉంటారో, అంటే అక్కడ భూమి కోల్పోయిన వారు, వన సంపద కోల్పోయిన వారు, వన్య మృగాలను కోల్పోయిన వారు, నీట మునిగిన వారు, తర్వాత వాళ్ళ యొక్క సంస్కృతి సాంప్రదాయాలు నాశనం అయిపోతుంటే వాళ్లకు దీన్ని వినాశనంగా చూసేటువంటి పరిస్థితి. కాబట్టి దీన్ని మనము వాళ్ళు అభివృద్ధి వైపుగా వాళ్ళు చూడరు. కేవలం ఒక పారిశ్రామికవేత్తలు మాత్రమే, ఒక ఉన్నత వర్గాలు లేదా డబ్బున్నటువంటి కాంట్రాక్టర్లు మాత్రమే దాన్ని అభివృద్ధిగా చూడడానికి అవకాశం ఉంటుంది. అసలు అభివృద్ధి అనేటువంటిది మనము సింపుల్ గా చెప్పుకోవాలంటే మనిషికి లేదా అంటే భారతదేశంలో మనం చూసినట్టయితే మనిషి యొక్క తలసరి ఆదాయం లేదా జాతీయ ఆదాయం, మెరుగైనటువంటి రోడ్లు, అదేవిధంగా ఆనకట్టలు, పరిశ్రమలు, భవనాలు, విద్య, వైద్యము, అక్షరాస్యత వంటి వాటిని అభివృద్ధిని మాత్రమే అభివృద్ధి అంటారు. అంటే ఇది అభివృద్ధి అనేటువంటిది పరిపూర్ణ అభివృద్ధిగా ఉండాలి తప్ప పర్యావరణ పరిరక్షణ ప్రజల ఆమోదంగా ఉన్నదాన్ని మాత్రమే అభివృద్ధి అనడానికి అవకాశం ఉంది. ముఖ్యంగా మనకి ఈ మధ్య కాలం లోపల మానవులు అభివృద్ధిని ఎలా వినాశనం చేస్తున్నారంటే, అడవులను నరికివేయడం, కొండలను గుట్టలను మొత్తంగా పగలగొట్టేసి గ్రానైట్ వ్యాపారం పెద్ద ఎత్తున చేస్తున్నాం. అదే విధంగా నేలకోత పెడుతున్నాం, నేలకోత పెట్టి ఇసుకను పెద్ద ఎత్తున దోపిడీ చేస్తూ అక్కడ నీటి నిల్వ లేకుండా చేస్తున్నాం. పురుగుల మందులను, వ్యవసాయ రంగానికి పురుగుల మందులను పెద్ద ఎత్తున వాడడం అనేటువంటిది జరుగుతుంది. అదే విధంగా రసాయన మందులను వాడుతున్నాం, కాలుష్యాన్ని పెద్ద ఎత్తున వెదజల్లుతున్నాం. ఈ యొక్క పచ్చిక బయలు లేకుండా మనం తగ్గిస్తున్నాం. పారిశ్రామిక వ్యర్థాలను విపరీతంగా ఈ భూమి మీదకి రావడం అనేటువంటి జరుగుతుంది. ఇది అన్ని కూడా మానవ తప్పిదాల వల్లనే జరుగుతున్నాయి. కాబట్టి భూమిని ఒక రకంగా చెప్పాలంటే మానవులు అంతా కూడా ఒక రకంగా రేప్ చేస్తున్నారని చెప్పడంలో ఏమాత్రం సందేహం లేదు. కాబట్టి ఇవాళ భూమి విచ్చలవిడిగా దోపిడీ చేస్తూ, అన్యాయం చేస్తూ, గుట్టలను, చెట్లను, అడవులను నరికేస్తూ ఈ యొక్క ప్రకృతిని వినాశనం చేసేది మానవుడే ప్రధానమైనటువంటి కారకుడు. కాబట్టి ఇవాళ అదే మానవుడు ఈ యొక్క ప్రకృతిని పునర్నిర్మించవలసినటువంటి అవసరం ఉందని చెప్పేసి నేను భావిస్తూ ఈ అంశం మీద ఇప్పుడు ఇంతకుముందే మన యొక్క కన్వీనర్ గారు శ్రీ రాము గారు ఇప్పుడే ఇంతకుముందే చెప్పారు. శ్రీ మిశ్రా స్వాతి ఆనంద్ గారు, వారు బిఎస్సి ఎన్విరాన్మెంటల్ సైన్స్ బరోడాలో చేశారు. అదే విధంగా ఎంఎస్సి ఎన్విరాన్మెంటల్ మేనేజ్మెంట్ డెహ్రాడూన్ లో చేశారు. వారు ఇప్పుడు ప్రస్తుతం పిహెచ్డి క్యాండిడేట్, అంటే షీఈస్ డూయింగ్ పిహెచ్డి ఇన్స్టిట్యూట్ ఆఫ్ వుడ్ సైన్స్ అండ్ టెక్నాలజీ బెంగళూరులో వాళ్ళు చేస్తున్నారు. వీరు అనేక సంస్థల్లో పనిచేస్తున్నారు. ప్రస్తుతం కూడా వీరు అనేకమైనటువంటి నేషనల్, ఇంటర్నేషనల్ లో అనేకమైనటువంటి వ్యాసాలు కూడా రాయడం జరిగింది. వీరు పర్యావరణానికి సంబంధించినటువంటి అనేక వ్యాసాలు రాయడం జరిగింది. వీరు కంప్లీట్ పిహెచ్డి అంతా కూడానే ఇప్పుడు పర్యావరణం మీద, కాబట్టి వీరు ఈ అంశం మీద మాట్లాడతారని తెలియజేస్తుంటూ ఐ కాల్ అపాన్ శ్రీ స్వాతి మిశ్రా గారు. Swati madam, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
Yeah,
for this
please.
wonderful opportunity to allow me to present on sustainable development on TGV. So I would like to share a presentation.
Want a screen share? Yeah, okay.
Um,
You want a screen share, Swati?
Yes, sir. I want to screen share.
Yeah, okay.
So happy Earth Day week to everyone. This was the 51st Earth Week that we celebrated on April 22, 2021. And the theme of the Earth Day this year was restoring the environment, restoring the earth. That is how gave me the idea to present on this topic. I have a brief talk about it, not anything very deep, but something that is prevalent to our society, a brief talk, but definitely brings something new on the plate. So I can share the screen.
You can, you can.
No. Yeah, so it's about conceptualizing sustainability, the key to restoring Earth. We have often heard the word sustainability, sustainable development. We come across this word so often, right from a very young age. So let me first tell, when we talk about sustainable development, we are talking about the development in different sectors: sustainable agriculture, sustainable environment, sustainable urbanization, and sustainability is the sum of the sustainable development in all the sectors. So India, it ranks in a 87 in Global Energy Transition Index. So these are some of the news clippings that I have. Just tells us about the current environmental and the sustainability status in India. You know, the country ranks 168 in Environmental Performance Index out of 187 countries. It has remained woefully behind the other countries. And a sustainability rank is 170 of 193 UN member nation. So despite of lots of struggle in bringing the laws and the changes for the environmental upscaling, environment regeneration, we have remained very far. And for a country with global aspirations, this ranks are humiliating. Okay. So in the recent Leaders Summit of Climate Change, we have seen that India and China, they are one of the most global air polluters, and most of the source of the cause for us is coal burning. We have 187 new coal scales coming up, so it needs to stop. So Earth Day, it began in 1970. Okay, so for the first time, it was proposed by an activist, John McConnell, to honor the Earth on March 21, 1970. So March 21 was chosen because it's the first day of the spring in the Northern Hemisphere. And it was proposed that it should be celebrated by the UNESCO members. But then a month later, Gaylord Nelson, he proposed the idea of environmental teaching nationwide. And it was not expected that about 20 million people would come on the street to support this event. And this was considered as the largest single day protest of on Earth Day in human history. So later, this was later some activists, they joined in together, and not only they spread the scale the nationwide, and it was possible because of the stakeholder participation in it. Later, it started spreading to more of the countries. Many other governments started picking up this action and they promoted it. And it was mostly promoted by the college students, by the environmental activists, the college researchers. So, by today, currently, we have 193 nations, 191 nations participating in Earth Day. So over 1 billion of people, they celebrate Earth Day every year. So since the decade of 2020 to 2030 is about restoring the environment, how can we restore our environment? It is not the sole duty of the government, of the researchers, of the institutions, but it is the sole duty of every individual to come together. And how can we achieve it? The key lies in sustainability. So, what are the dimensions of the sustainability? The four dimensions of sustainability are society, environment, culture, and economy. Sustainability is such a multifaceted term. It's like a nature of sustain transition to sustainability requires decision that not only embraces the economy, the various complexities of the societies and the culture which benefits the environment. And the motivation behind sustainability can often be complex, personal, and diverse. And it has to be. You know, it is such an interwoven link that if you leave out any one term, you're disturbing the other realms of the environment. So, when we talk about the community, we are talking about the society, culture, the governance and the policy, the health and the well being of the people, society, and culture. The environment includes the habitat, energy, land use, land changes that we are seeing today, which is not beneficial, the water, materials, ecosystem, and air. Principles of sustainability. They include conservation of the ecosystem. Conservation of the ecosystem is at the center. It's no more something that we need to we can have it. It's something we need to have it. The policies, the environmental policies that include the conservation, the individual acts that promote conservation of ecosystem, we together as communities and institutions need to come up with it. All the then comes the development of sustainable society. Now, if a society is not well developed, it's not sustainable, we cannot talk about the development of the economy or the conservation. A sustainable society is what promotes the conservation of the ecosystem. Now, Indira Gandhi in 1972 at Stockholm UNCHE conference, she said for the first time that poverty is the foundation for environmental degradation. She was highly criticized for it. There were many countries who wanted to uh, you know, not abolish this convention and said it's not true because the developed countries had already polluted most of and extracted most of the resources, and now they are preventing us from doing it. We can never achieve development if we focus on the environment. At that time in Sahel, Sahel is a shoreline, between the sub-Saharan African countries and Egypt, includes like Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Senegal. So now, that time there was a drought situation around the 1970s, and there was a misconception that this drought was caused by the deforestation due to the tribal communities. But in reality, the drought was caused by change in oceanic current due to the rapid urbanization and industrialization. Now, Sahel region is very close to Saharan, but it has a semi-arid and tropical region, nothing as extreme as the Sahara Desert. Okay, so this concept of IG, Indira Gandhi, okay, that industrialization, the poverty amongst the people is the main source of environmental degradation and, you know, sustaining us, preventing us from achieving sustainable development. But today it is the key foundation for most of the organization and for the climate change policies that we see today. Now, conservation of biodiversity. India has a few pockets of mega biodiversity, which is at risk because of the many upcoming projects. There has been movements in the past that were very strong for the conservation of the biodiversity, but what we see today are flaky movements. Then there has to be control on population growth. If the population density exceeds the available space for the humans, it results in the degradation of the environment, and we cannot achieve development of the country. Development of human resources. Our resources are limited. Consumers are more. We need to make sure that the resource we consume do not exceed what the nature generates. It's only then we can achieve this sustainable development. And there has to be a promotion of public participation. Public has to come to the center of this discussion because at the end, any major reforms that are made, public has to be consulted. It affects them, and in turn, it affects the environment and the society and the ecosystem as a whole. Now, the models of sustainability, there are many more models of sustainability, but these are the four models that are used worldwide, and we'll just have a look at them in brief. Now, pictorial visualization method. It means that model is, stresses on the importance of the intersection between the three areas, that is economic, social, and the environment. It's a static model that is limited in providing information, but is powerful tool in terms of reaching a broader audience. Now, it means like what is visible to our eye. Is my volume low or is it perfectly audible for everyone? It's audible, right? Okay. So now the pictorial visualization method actually includes the sectors that we witness. You know, the problems that we see in our day-to-day lives, we bring them together and then modeling is done based on it. And it makes no sense. It's easier for the general public to understand it. But for something like policy making or a wider research, this model cannot be used. Second is the quantitative models. Now, from policy making perspective, six type of quantitative models are there, namely macroeconomic, macroeconometric model, computable generic equilibrium, optimization model, system dynamic model, probabilistic model, and multi-agent simulation model. I won't go into detail of all these models, but in brief, you know, these are the more like you know, it calculates everything from the roots, from the existence of the problem to the end of the problem, and it gives you how much of destruction has been caused, how much it benefit, it's going to financial benefit an action is going to give. What are the impacts that a society is going to have from a certain project? And you know, how can we optimize this impacts? There is a probability method that's being used, and it gives before you also start the project, you set up the project. we conduct the impact assessment methods, for example, where we calculate all the risks that are involved with the project and all the hazards it will cause. And we develop. So then we see if the project should be implemented or not. Third is the physical model. It's restricted to the environmental component. Now it's very specific and predominantly local. So but the benefit of having this model is that it reduces uncertainty and it's very time restrictive. It does not tell us like if the impact is going to last for 10 years, for 20 years. So that's a big drawback, and it only takes into account like our water reservoirs, the ponds, the lakes that we work on. It does not see the integration of the other areas like the economy, the societal benefits, or the societal impact. Fourth one is the conceptual model. Now the conceptual model is very brief, very broad, and it's linked to humanities waking up to the limits of natural environment and what are the negative impacts that population and its development have been having on it. Okay, so it includes all the dimensions, the social dimension, economic, and the environment. It sees what are the long-term impacts as well as what are the intergenerational impacts that are being caused by a certain action. It contains elements like warning, signals like alertness, threats, and fears. And it allows political agenda and stakeholders' involvement. So this modeling is considered to be one of the best modeling while we are seeing the sustainable development of any sector. Now, this modeling should be based on three aspects, time related. It should tell us what is the purpose of the project, for how long it's going to be there, and what are the benefits or impacts it's going to cause for what term period. Then the place related. Now, if a project is set in an eco-sensitive zone, that is not advisable. Or if it's set in a coastal regulation zone, it's not advisable. We have, it helps us uh, to see find a proper place where an action should be taking place. And any industry um, should not be placed in an eco-sensitive zone. And third is the scale related. Now, for example, if a shrimp farming is being set up in Vishakhapatnam and it is of small scale, it can be allowed. But if it's something of wider scale, then it cannot be allowed. It has to be done somewhere far from the coastal area and needs proper regulation and zonation. Third is the tools of assessing sustainable development. First is the risk assessment. Okay, so risk is the probability of a hazard that can be caused due to any project, plan, or action. A risk assessment tool can be qualitative, quantitative, generic, site-specific, or dynamic. When we're talking of tools, these are some of the softwares that are developed by various institutes where they can feed in the data and then we can generate the risk that is being imposed by any plan. Second is life cycle assessment. Life cycle assessment, or LCA, is a methodology for assessing environmental impacts associated with all the stages of the life cycle and of a product, process, or a service. There are four stages of life cycle assessment, you know, from cradle to gate. That is from the time the plantations being made, okay, to the time where it reaches the particular source of manufacturing industry or a company. Then comes gate to gate. So it includes all the processes and evaluation of the impact caused within the industry. The third is gate to grave, okay, from the industry when it reaches the dumping grounds. Then comes from grave to cradle. Now, grave to cradle is again a recycling. So if we recycle the product, we again reuse it as a raw material and the system continues. Now, the third is the benefit cost analysis. It's a systematic approach to estimating strengths and weaknesses of the alternatives used to determine options which provide the best approach to achieving benefits while preserving savings. In short, we can say it tells us the advantages of a particular action are likely to outweigh its drawbacks. We have lots of national projects that are being set up, and sometimes it requires clearing of land or shifting of the communities from one place to another. So benefit cost analysis or cost benefit analysis is being made, and it tells us if the positive impacts or the benefits that are going to be provided from this project are outweighing the drawbacks. And if it does, the project is given a green light, and it's also put under clean development mechanism most of the times. And so for that, the analysis, benefit cost analysis software is used. Fourth comes the ecosystem analysis. Now, the ecosystem analysis has a rich, detailed series of inputs and outputs of energy and matter. That is basically the energy that, like coal, the renewable source energy, or the raw materials from the natural sources that we're using. And it has a, so how are we using it? It tells us more about it. Everything that is derived from the natural sources are not always sustainable. For example, if we are generating about 5 kg tons of wood per year, and if we are using more than 10 kg tons of wood per year, it's not sustainable despite of being coming it from a natural resource. The point lies in using it judiciously. What we have today, it takes lots of time for the natural resources to generate. We have to use it judiciously and provide it to the next generation. We cannot consume everything by ourselves. We have to create alternative sources. A dependence on just wood, it's not feasible. We have to consider sectors like the fibers, the biocomposites, steel industries as well. We have to go for other alternatives like wood plastic composite, mixing wood and plastic together. So the existing plastic waste can be reutilized and we get a better component. Now, ecosystem analysis is a mix of biogeochemistry, ecophysiology, and meteorology that emphasizes the circulation, the transformation and accumulation of energy and matter through medium of living things and their activities. So even like how much of water is evaporated from the oceans and how much is precipitated, that can be analyzed through the ecosystem analysis software. Then comes the integrated assessment models. Now it's a scientific modeling that links main features of society and economy with biospheres and atmosphere into one modeling. So like we see the risk assessment that we are doing it differently for the industries, for the environment, for even the ecosystem analysis that pertains to the environment. Integrated assessment modeling, on the other hand, that combines all the realms together into one modeling. The goal is to make informed policy making, and it's usually in the context of climate change. So they include energy systems, land use, land change, agriculture, infrastructure, conflict, governance, technology, education, health, and many more aspects. Sixth is sustainability impact assessment. First, what is a sustainable impact? Sustainable impact uh, is to ensure that the positive impact of the project is carried on even after the project has ended. So the purpose of any project that is set up, it should not be until it's there and then it's going to create some negative impact. So the positive impacts of these projects should continue even after the project period has ended. That is a sustainable impact. So sustainability impact assessment is mostly measured through corporate reporting. So the corporates, they prepare a report on their sustainable use, how they have managed to achieve the sustainability through reduction in the energy consumption, in using the papers wisely, you know, or you know, LEED or the Griha markings that are given. So also through triple bottom line accounting. Triple bottom line accounting is nothing but the impact that is caused to the society and the environment as well through the economic development projects. Then quality of governance. The government laws, actions, they play a very important role in achieving sustainability. Sometimes the economic development that are proposed by the government, they overlook the importance of the habitats and the biodiversity. For example, Patkai region recently has been the talk. And previously also, if we look at the forest corridor in Assam, where the railway tracks pass through it, it was the habitat of the elephants were not considered before proposing this project. And today, as a result, the elephants die unfortunate death. The horrible death is witnessed most of the times in these railway tracks while they are crossing these forest corridors. And now Dehin Patkai. So the National Highway project is being proposed connecting the northeastern states, but it is one of the mega biodiversity spots in India, just as the Himalayan hotspot, the western and the eastern Ghats. And most of the habitat and species are going to be lost just because of this highway project. There have been a big movement and opposition from the people, the students, and the government had to reconsider the approval of the project. For a certain time, they delayed on the project, but however, later it was put under clean development mechanism and the project was approved. So now sustainable impact assessment tool is used for generating reports like Global Green Economy, Environmental Sustainability Index, and Environmental Performance Index. Now, seventh is our Environment Justice Tool. Environment Justice Tools is nothing but the data that's been collected by the various institutions, NGOs, and firms, and that is allowed to map and provided to the public, okay, which informs us about the environment health. Now, EJ's green software is one of the most popularly environment justice tools that is being used today. Okay, so I'll give you a view of what environment justice tool looks like. The again, this is here. So whatever data that is available to us, it is mapped and then it is provided to the public. So here we see in the map to the left, the colored ones, it shows like the homes with a lead paint, or and in the right we see the percent of the population that is below poverty level. So in India, we do not use EJ screen software, but we use a very basic ArcGIS method. Okay, so we use ArcGIS method to conceptualize all the data into the map. Then we have trade-off and synergy analysis. Actions that work in harmony to achieve sustainable development goals are defined here. It checks risk, benefit, impact for the provision of economic services. And there are components, in this case, various components are paired together. For example, the real estate will be compared with the ecosystem. And then it's seen that if they both cause any impact on each other. So there will be like many pairs created, ecosystem versus urbanization, ecosystem versus uh, development of the shrimp farming ecosystem versus industrialization, something as simple as ecosystem versus home recycling. Okay, so all these, they're paired up, all these components, and then we see what are the impacts they have on each other. Okay, so what are India's sustainability goals? So, wait, let me. Okay, so there are 17 sustainability goals for India. The ones that are marked in red are the major challenges that are still remain to enact on. The one in the orange, there are still significant challenges that we still haven't achieved. Yellow are the ones challenges remain, and the green shows the SDG goal achieved. So the only one in green we see is the climate action. Okay, so uh, India, despite being one of the most vulnerable countries to climate change, it says that it shows in green that our SDG for climate action has been achieved because the actions that we propose, the targets we propose, are not enough. We have proposed going renewable, depending more on the renewable sources of energy. But today, only about 17% of the country energy comes from the renewable sources. And Karnataka is the leading state for using renewable source energy. So even in the Leaders Summit for Climate Change, what we propose is increasing our renewable sources energy to 450 gigawatts, or reduction in the carbon emission. So that is not enough. No, it is much more than that. The climate change does not just occur because of the increase in the carbon, the degradation, the destruction of the forest, which are definitely important. But then there are many other causes that cause the climate change. Even the actions that are being taken by our neighboring countries equivalently impact our climate. So here we see no poverty, zero hunger, good health, and well-being. That are still some of the challenges that we need to work on. If the health infrastructure or if the economy of the country is not improved, you cannot expect these common people to think about the green actions, taking up the green approach, because they are expensive. It's expensive to go green. It's not something that can be taken up by everyone, every class of the societies. Quality education. Education has to be emphasized more on, and it should not be just about literacy, where we are taught the basic, but our education quality and has to come up on many levels. It should also include eco schools, not just eco schools, but something that exposes us more to the adversities, the problems of today. Gender equality. Now, gender equality in terms of the environment, today more women are participating in the restoration and the conservation of environment. They are the forerunners. They are in the front of the line when it comes to restoration of the environment, but they are not credited enough, you know. So there is this thing that women, they are considered as one of the major components of environmental education and awareness when it comes, you know, to environmental protection, clean water and sanitation. You know, our groundwater tables are decreasing, our rivers are being polluted, we are having major water conflicts. That doesn't allow us to use the resources that exist with us today efficiently. You know, the Ganges, that is considered as the holy water, today is compared, you know, with the urinals. They say it's one of the dirtiest places today. So, despite of the major investment going for the cleanliness of the water bodies and the lakes, we are not able to achieve the goals because we are not curbing the sources. We are not stopping the sources that are polluting these water bodies. Then comes decent work and economic growth. Now, if you don't have enough for your survival, you can't care about being sustainable about the environment or about the society. So, then it is industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Now, industrialization is one of the major backbones of the nation. Nation cannot develop without the industries, but that does not give an access to an industry to pollute the resource, to overuse the resources or pollute the environment or deplete the society of the basic needs. You know, when an industry is set up, it has to be seen that they provide employment, they do not degrade the quality of life for the society, the wastes are not being thrown into the water bodies, or the smoke is not emitted into the atmosphere. So there is a big need for infrastructure, but it needs to come up with a structure. There has to be a good structure and design, you know, for these industries. Now, sustainable cities and communities. Now, urbanization has been criticized over a long period of time, saying they are the major polluters for the environment. It is true. Urbanization, whereas, is not a bad concept, and planned urbanization is. What India needs today is a sensible urban planning. You know, we cannot just have the real estate boom go unplanned. It needs to slow down. There has to be a design, a plan needs to be created before this structure develops, before they are set up. You know, there has to be a body that takes care of all these things before the structure are developed, about their architecture, about the design, about the drainage and the sanitation, about you know, the indoor environmental quality, about the substances that are being used. Then comes life below water, life in land. Life on land, okay, here are some of the pictures I have from my Rameshwaram visit. So we know corals, they are one of the major ecosystem of life below water. And we have about, here is a map, it tells us about the coral distribution in India. We have in Gulf of Kutch, Lakshadweep, in Gulf of Mannar, in Andaman Islands, and here somewhere in the central. Okay, so here we see bleached coral reefs in Park Bay, Tamil Nadu coast. I had recently visited Rameshwaram. So these are the pictures I got from there. This is the turtle is from the Rameshwaram aquarium. Okay, so corals are beautiful colored species. So we see when they are bleached, they are done. How it has turned into. There is no color to them. And they are an important keystone to the ocean. If destroyed, they can just unbalance the entire ecosystem. If the keystone species are destroyed, it damages lot of the species and the habitat. So the balance has to be maintained. The balance is something very important. The other keystone species that we see are olive ridleys in Vishakhapatnam. Okay, olive ridleys were facing lots of troubles in most of the shores, east shores of India. That is where we see them. From Odisha, Andhra, Telangana, Tamil Nadu. So these are most of the places where we find olive ridley turtles. And 2 years ago, about 70,000 turtle nests were found in the coast of Odisha and Vishakhapatnam. It was expected that during the pandemic, it would be much more, but that did not happen. It was much less. But it's a good sign that these coasts are taking care of their environment very well and providing a protected habitat for the olive ridleys to come back. We have these are the pics somewhere from 2009 from Gir in Gujarat. So the population of the lions in Gir is increasing, but the space for them is not. The increased population still has to live in that limited space. So there was a talk about shifting these lions to Kuno in Madhya Pradesh, but it was not possible because the state minister that time did not want the state pride to be relocated to some other state. But when it comes to the environment, we have to think beyond boundaries. No, we are connected. The earth is connected. It is not separated by the boundaries that the humans create. In order to maintain the habitat and the species intactness, it becomes very necessary to transfer them to a different places. Otherwise, their lives are in danger. Now, the low carbon future. We hear a lot about the low carbon future, carbon footprint that we leave behind, and reducing the carbon emission, reducing human carbon footprint in our day-to-day lives. So the various sectors in where the low carbon future can be achieved are first the power sector. Okay, so the burning of coal is responsible for 46% of CO2 emission worldwide. And in India, 72% of greenhouse gases come from electricity sector. So we do not say that we should totally stop depending on the coal, but we should stop creating more coal powerhouses. We should work with what already exists and then create alternatives that are coming from the renewable sources. India is already taken up big initiative on the solar power. We need to also focus on geothermal, wind, and the hydropower electricity. Now, the states like Rajasthan or Northern Gujarat, they can achieve solar power. Okay, but now the states like GNK, the establishment of the solar power to that extent is not possible, and in turn they will have to import the solar energy from the other states. So we have to look at the possibilities of renewable source energy that is available with them. Now we see the real estate. The real estate is one of the major energy consumers today. Now, if just we take an example of a corporate firm, how much of energy that is being used? It's quite huge. Just if they are working 24 hours and they are not using the sustainable energies, the impact that they are causing is quite vast. So all the building should be Griha or LEED certified, which Griha or LEED certification actually is given to those institutions like who can reduce their energy consumption. Energy consumption reduction can be done through less usage of the air conditioners, just simple acts like switching off the lights when you leave. So we see the energy sensors coming up, the electricity sensors, the water sensors, they are coming up instead of the switches. Then comes lifestyle. Lifestyle, it includes our farm to table, so that is what we consume, or a fashion industries. Okay, so you know the degree of 6 degree of separation notion today is not just limited to our friends or families. We get separated, there is anxiety, but today it also uh, is applied to the brands that we are using. If we are asked to give up certain brands, certain products, it's not possible for us. We are so used to them. Okay. So now if we are using some imported brands that has larger carbon footprint and freight transportation, global logistic indexes increased. Okay. So there has to be a dependence more on local goods. You know, um, Then comes agriculture. Now, we have widely heard uh, go green, organic products, organic farming. Okay. But just for a land to be converted into organic land is a big investment and is very expensive. For that, a farmer has to regenerate the soil, create the soil that is free of chemicals, does not have pesticides, insecticides, or any sort of chemical fertilizer. That takes time and money. So, mostly the richer people or the richer farmers, they are going practicing organic farming. So we are taking our products from this richer farmers, and there is a disparity created again amongst the richer and the poorer. So instead of this richer corporates practicing, by purchasing an organic land and practicing the organic business, they should be investing into the land of the poorer farmers, into creating it organic. Then comes the urbanization and industrialization. So our urban and industrial policies need to change. Today, the industries, they're polluting so much more. And when they are fined for polluting the environment, they find it much easier to pay the fine than to install green technologies. So the polluters pay medium has to change. Stricter regulations need to be brought. The national infrastructure projects, as we discussed, the national infrastructure project should develop the economy of the nation, but they should see that no society and the culture is destroyed. The society, the people, they do not suffer from it, and nor should the environment. Now, the IT sector. India is today one of the top IT sectors worldwide, and we are also generating a top 5 generator of IT waste. And we do not have a proper management system to dispose of this waste. They mostly end up in the open dump yards or the landfills that are not covered properly. They are not basically, when a landfill is created, it should first be protected with a cover so that this waste do not leach into the ground and disturb the groundwater environment. What should be our environmental focus? Our environmental focus should be about habitat and species intactness. Okay. Today, less than 3% of habitat remains the same as it was in pre-industrial time. Most of our habitats have been fragmented, infringed, and the species are dying. All today, 80 species of flora and fauna are extinct in India. About 646 are critically endangered. We should also look at the functionality of the ecosystem. The functionality of this ecosystem is much more deep. Mostly our knowledge about the species in depth is very less. So we do not know which are the keystone species. So when the clean development mechanism is passed, the habitat is destroyed, and in process we might lose these keystone species, which disturb the functioning of the environment. Now, waste management. India produces far less waste than any developed countries, but our problem lies in its management. We do not have a proper logistic or route planning for managing the waste. The approach we should take up is recycle, reuse, reduce, and upcycle. We should try to reduce the waste at its source, recycle it, and if possible, reuse it. Upcycling approaches, the recycle waste that is there, it is created of a better quality, that is upcycle. Then comes the green technologies or the green approach. So for example, this one example from Dehradun. There is a Pulton market in Dehradun which is visited daily by thousands of people, and it's barely of a radius 1.5 to 2 kilometers. So the government had said that no vehicles will be allowed inside the market. They will have to park the vehicle and then be on feet inside until there are some physical disabilities that prevent you to do from. So within a week, it was witnessed. There was only a few hundred people in the market. So, we need to take this green approaches. The government is taking initiative, but it cannot curb the development of these communities as well. So we all have to come as equal when it comes to a green approach. Then green technologies. For example, in Kanpur, the leather tanneries had not been using water effluent treatment system. So the government had shut it down. And there was a complaint that an alternative or something should be provided for the poorer entrepreneurs. But it, these technologies should not come at the price of the environment. They have to be sustainable. Then comes the eco labels. Eco labels, they are something like, it tells you about the impact that it has caused. For example, wood is illegally sourced in India, and we are one of the, I think, second or third in rank when it comes to illegally sourcing wood. So if these woods are the forest products, they are certified. We come to know where we are getting goods from. What are the impacts that it has on the environment? What is the carbon footprint, energy footprint? So just like the label of the nutritional value, it tells us more about the environment protection. Leadership in energy and environmental design, LEED, and green rating for integrated habitat assessment. So these are the certifications that are important for the infrastructure. Then let us have a look at the eco businesses in India. There is Telangana tribal women practicing regenerative farming. Now, regenerative farming is something that has been popularized a lot recently, and the UN has been asking India to practice more of it since causes causes reduction in the carbon emission. So it is said that soil has to be organic and intact, and it stocks carbon in it. So if we don't till it to a greater depth and extent, we can have better producers. So the Telangana tribal women have been practicing this 2013. And during the time of the pandemic, they were not only able to feed their own community, but the cities on the periphery of this community, and also they were supplying the products to Bangalore. And they were providing free meals to the municipal, the police, and the health workers. Then comes the groundwater recharge in called RETAS in Hyderabad. So RETAS took up the initiative to prepare cost-effective groundwater recharge system. So every household can buy it for around 2,000 to 3,000 rupees, the equipment cost. Install it, and during the rain, you can recharge the groundwater with it. 12 fashion store in West Bengal. The Sustainability Report of India 2020 was based on the fashion industry and the sustainability in the fashion industry. So there it is mentioned that uh, in India, there are less than 17 brands that practice the concept of sustainability. So it is said that if we use the products, organic products like hemp, cotton, jute, or something even like viscose rayon, it is much more sustainable. Compared to polyester, it's a plastic that stays in the environment for a longer time. It does not break down. So 12 Fashion, they collect clothes from you. If they are in good condition, you can donate it. If they are not, they can be recycled or even upcycled to a better quality. Then comes the Carbon Craft Design in Goa. It is an architecture-based company that focuses on proper ventilation, uh, engineering processes that reduces the stress on the earth, and use of better materials that causes carbon reduction. Then comes Himalayan Rocket Staff Project. Himalayan Rocket Staff Project is actually conducted by a US-based entrepreneur, Russell. So on his visit here, he saw that India still uses the wooden chips, for burning fire. And today, the wood chips are responsible for 60%, like 60% of the wood goes for fuel burning. It is practiced still in the rural areas, in the hilly areas. So they developed this stove project. So here, if we see, they have two chambers. This is the primary chamber. Okay, just like the same, where the wood is burned, the food is cooked on top of it. And then here, this is the secondary chamber, where the exhaust and the combustion of the smoke is again burned. Okay, so maximum of the combustion is cycled here, and what is released is additional heat. Another eco-business project from Telangana is cocoa trade. Okay, so they do is that they buy the beads from Karnataka, and the cover. So at about 2017, the startup had been set up, and the person was Nitin Chaudhya. He was working in Nature Basket, and he saw that people mostly buy the imported chocolates more than the Indian chocolates. So, with many experiments and going to various chocolate tasters, he found a good recipe for his chocolate. And then the next question for him was sustainability. How did he achieve it? So the wrappers that he make are from plastic-free aluminiums. You see, so these packets, they are plastic-free aluminiums. And then the chocolates are put inside. Okay, so see, this we see, they're put inside a sustainable boxes. And these boxes are made from the fibers of the cocoa beans. Okay, so like when they are using the cocoa beans, whatever fiber is left over, they use it. So the packaging is very low. It generates quite a low waste, and they are one of the most sustainable chocolates available in India. Okay, they are also available in vegan and gluten free for people who are allergic to gluten or are lactose intolerant. Yeah, they also have one of my favorite flavors, filter coffee. So, in conclusion, see, every individual has to come forward to restore the environment. Yeah. Um, from a spatial perspective, while ecological systems provide raw materials, food, water, and recreational facilities to local population, they are also essential to global carbon and water cycle. We have to use our resources very judiciously. You cannot leave your water tap running. Reuse the water. If it's not free of detergent, reuse it. Reuse in the garden, reuse for washing the cars. The corporate and the industries have to take responsibilities for the environment. Uh, Not just the corporates and the industries, but something even like the entertainment and fashion industries. They have to start taking responsibility for the environment. They are using resources in such excess, and they are using and they are polluting the environment much more than we do. The energy consumption and the carbon consumption is high as well. So, when they come to preach about the environment, uh, it's hypocrisy. Okay. So it's like they are leaving a bigger footprint than we do. And instead of them, they are saying they are green, whereas they are not. We are having lesser footprint than they already do it. So that needs to be stopped. And the environmental ambassador should not be the celebrities, but the local volunteers and the conservationists from every state. They have to come up. People have to participate. They know better about their needs and the environment. So, in the recent years, it has been prioritized that indigenous communities are given the task and role of protecting their own environment. Now, polluters pay has to be redefined. Just paying fine is not enough. They have to take bigger action. Then creation of infrastructure with proper structure. Even as an individual, when we are building homes, let's consult an architecture. Have a proper ventilation system and aeration system that provides a proper flow of oxygen in our houses and the cooling system so that there is a less dependency on the air conditioners. We have to create green zones. We have to create urban parks, urban space that brings down the temperature of the earth. Our earth, it's a bigger task that brings down the temperature of a region, a microclimate. Then on dependence on renewable sources. Use solar battery power operated tools, for example, and the state has to generate more renewable source energy than increasing the coal power sources. Or even we should be working on nuclear power plants. Then waste management at household level. Uh, there should be, and we already have an idea of composting and creating organic manure, but it should be practiced at a wider scale on household level. Then there should be eco schools and eco society. The eco schools, they make the students aware. Today, the organizations like WWF, they have been organizing lots of activities, but people aren't aware about it. The eco societies, like at a smaller scale, where this environmental conservationists or you know the youth or even any researcher, they have more ideas and have more to deliver. They should come together and develop the societies. So I would love to end it on a note. The current national accounting system treats earth as business in liquidation. Now we are in a period of uneconomic growth where GDP is growing but social welfare is not, says Herman Daly, one of the senior economists of World Bank. And then there is Paul Hawken. He's an environmentalist who says that at present we are stealing the future, selling it the present, and calling it GDP. And this is happening because we fail to realize the earth does not belong to us, but we to the earth. Once we understand that, we can walk on the way of sustainable development. Um, Ramu sir, we talked about environmental tool software, environment assessment software. So I would like to show life cycle assessment software that is available with me. So this software is a very expensive software. Costs about 6 lakhs for 1 year license. I have it available with me. I would love to show how this softwares work. Okay. So here, see, these are the different stages of the software that can be included. It includes libraries such as agriculture footprint, eco-invent that tells us about the environmental footprint. Then we have European Union input-output database, the industrial assessment. Okay, so these are various libraries that helps us assess whether if it's for agriculture products, for the environment, for the industrial data. Then we come here to the process. So there is one that's already been worked on. It's about bamboo polymer composite. Okay, so the bamboo and the waste plastic were combined together to form a product. The material, this is a library which gives you okay, so these are all the materials that are available in this software. We can use them in a project. Okay. So here we see for bamboo cultivation, we provide the input here. How much water goes into the cultivation of the bamboo, the transformation, what is the energy required by it, okay, what is the moisture, how much goes for the freeze and the cutting. So how much bamboo that is being received. So this is the data that we are putting inside, and then we are seeing like how much energy goes into the cutting and the pulverizing, how much waste is being generated, and then at the end when the bamboo polymer is made, we can analyze the carbon footprint of it. So we choose the network method here. Okay, so we will see for 100 kg of bamboo, what is the carbon footprint? This takes some time. So in the meanwhile, if there are any questions, we can take that up.
Yeah. Madam, thank you, madam. Thank you. స్వాతి మిశ్రా గారు వారు సుమారుగా 1:10 నిమిషాల సమయం పాటు కాన్సెప్టలైజేషన్ సస్టైనబిలిటీ రిస్టోరింగ్ ఎన్విరాన్మెంట్ అనేటువంటి అంశం మీద గంట 10 నిమిషాల సమయం పాటు స్వాతి మిశ్రా గారు లోతైనటువంటి అనాలిసిస్ చేశారు. వారు ముఖ్యంగా పర్యావరణ రక్షించడం కోసము కావలసినటువంటి అనేకమైనటువంటి విషయాలు తెలియజెప్తూనే అడవులను నరికివేయడం, పర్యావరణ కాలుష్యానికి కారణాలు ఏంటి అనేటువంటి విషయాన్ని కూడా వారు చాలా స్పష్టంగా చెప్పారు. ఆర్గానిక్ అగ్రికల్చర్ గురించినటువంటి విషయాలను, ప్లాస్టిక్ నిషేధానికి సంబంధించినటువంటి విషయాలను కూడా వారు తెలియజెప్పారు. వారికి మా తెలంగాణ జనవేదిక తరఫున ప్రత్యేకమైనటువంటి ధన్యవాదాలు మేడం. ఇప్పుడు జేమ్స్ ప్రశాంత్, జేమ్స్ ప్లీజ్. James, wait. Unmute yourself. James, yeah.
Actually, I wanted to tell you that I think that you were trying to show the software. It was not visible.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Not visible. Yeah.
It didn't come up on the screen. Yeah. It did not come up on the screen. I wonder if you want to show that again. I just wanted to quickly.
Yes.
So because it is an important component of the
share the screen so that everyone can see the software assessment. Here. So now for the bamboo polymer, production of 100 kg of bamboo polymer emits 127 kg of CO2 equivalent. And out of that, major, it comes from plastic, polypropylene granulate. Okay. So see, even something like the transportation, 20 ton kilometer of the transportation will only emit about less than a kg of CO2. The maximum comes from our plastic. Plastic has to stop. It has to go away. Okay. This is about plastic, but even something like the cultivation of onions. Just show you for the cultivation, the farming of the onions, how much carbon is emitted. We'll have a look at it. Yeah, there is 100% carbon emission. Okay, so see, these are the substances that even the cultivation of onion takes in from various sources. Okay, so even something like onion production, it has 100% carbon footprint, carbon emission. These are like one of the SEMAPro is one of the most powerful tools. Dr. Sudhakar has asked for a link. I'll share it in the chat box. So shall I stop sharing if everyone got view of the software?
Sure, sure.
Now, SEMA Pro software is not free. The price for it is very high, but there are some open sources software like Gabi software and OpenLC. They have a little limited database and the accuracy is about 75%, which is still very good for OpenLCA system. So the carbon footprint or the life cycle of any product, process, or service can be achieved, can be seen there. So in the chat box, I have left a link for the SEMA Pro. So we can take up question answers.
Yeah. Please,
Yeah,
James.
Professor Sanjeev Reddy has a question, Swati. Can you answer that? Yeah. Sir, Sanjeev Reddy, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, please, sir. Please.
Am I audible, Swati?
Yeah, sir. Sir, please, sir.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Swati, for sharing your ideas with us today.
Thank you.
It was a surprise. Somebody speaking. You know, Ramu has regular sessions on environment, but somebody from Bangalore, this is the first time. So we thank you. The canvas of your talk was really comprehensive. What I am now interested is in knowing more about this tribal women
Yes, sir.
practicing regenerative farming in Telangana. If you have more details about the same, please share with us.
Yes, sir, there is.
While speaking on principles of sustainability,
Yes, sir.
you have suggested for promotion, the last part of the thing was that promotion of public participation.
Yes, sir.
Now, Swati, we've been talking about environment for decades now. I mean, you spoke extensively about Mrs. Gandhi and all that. How do we bring about this? You know, we have Clean Ganga, so many things.
Yes, sir.
The things you quoted. These are all great examples for us to, be enlightened citizens. But despite all this, nothing has come about in the people, I mean, in the courts, public. So how do we bring about this public participation into this sustainable activity? Speak something on that. I appreciate this.
Yes, that's why I've mentioned like the projects, the cleaning the Ganges and all have come, but why are they still not as successful? Because the public awareness is less, and as far it goes for public participation, it has to scale up. Just having celebrity ambassadors for environment promotion, just having a one-day rally is not enough. We need to start appointing the local volunteers, the local environmentalists who are working for it, the indigenous community.
The question is that, Swati, my question is precisely that. How do we bring out this awakening of, this, spring in the feet of the people? How do we do that? We have the government has enacted so many things. They put up so many boards. The Swachh Bharat thing is going on, the campaign, people come, but we as citizens, we as public of this country are not really conscious. We are so callous. So that is what I am asking. How do we bring about this? How do we, since you are a researcher, Swati,
yes,
please pardon me, you are into thick of it. So I thought you will be able to enlighten us.
Yes, definitely. That's the point. Like when Narendra Modi had appointed various ambassadors in various cities for environmental initiative, it was a wrong move. instead of appointing the celebrities from the entertainment industry, one of the most uh, important initiative he could have brought in was appointing ambassadors, the environmental leaders, the young researchers, and that could have made the difference. And
Yes.
eco schools that are being talked about, environment has become one of the compulsory courses in the syllabus of every courses, but it's not enough. There is a need to establish eco schools. I think it's only then that we can become more environmental conscious and aware. The public today is not aware of climate change or the environmental degradation that is happening at a wider scale. What happened, for example, with Dehi Patkai, it remained restricted to Dehi Patkai. The media has to come. They have to cover these protests, and they have to sensationalize the people on a wider scale. It's only then we can start. It's then we can start. Not even achieve the public participation to the extent we are hoping to.
Thanks, Swati. Thank you for once again for being with us. Thank you so much.
థ్యాంక్ యూ ప్రొఫెసర్
you,
సంజీవ్ రెడ్డి గారు. సార్ ప్రొఫెసర్ సుధాకర్ గారు. యా ప్రొఫెసర్ సుధాకర్ సార్.
Okay, thank you. I was just unmuted. Thank you very much, the organizers, and thank you, Ms. Swati Mishra, prospective environmental scientist. Okay, where you have been doing extensive work and very purposeful work on environmental science, and I must say, basically, I am a person hailing from the legal fraternity, and incidentally, I had an opportunity of doing some work on environmental protection, and more particularly from the legal component. And I did some projects for the World Bank through National Law School of India, University Bangalore, where you are doing your research work. Before I actually share my views, I want to tell something to my friend Sanjeev Reddy about the tribals, because we did some work on tribals and their contribution for protection of environment. Our studies revealed that nowhere the indigenous people or tribals who are living in the woods are not contributory for degradation of environment, but basically they are forest worshippers. If at all any degradation or the so-called exploitation of the natural resources that are available, it is only because of the acts of the people who are greedy people who are living in the mainlands.
Yes.
And that's where generally I use the word worshippers, never exceeding their minimum limit requirement. They never cut down the trees, and they are contributory for the maintenance of the so-called flora and fauna. And whatever the haunting and all the things are concerned, they are being done only by the people from the mainland, and preferably from the urban settlement. They never do like things. So this is for my friend Sanjiv's information.
So, no, Sudhakar, 1 minute.
Chepe.
Sudhakar, 1 minute.
Okay.
Sudhakar,
Yeah.
I was asking Swati.
Yeah. Okay.
She spoke about the Telangana women,
Okay.
and she spoke about how they are, employing. These women are engaged in regenerative farming. I
No,
was not saying that the tribals are engaged in, deforestation or anything.
No, Sanjeev, this is
didn't say
additional. Yeah, Sanjeev, this is additional information. I am not clarifying this thing. So this is an additional information that I wanted to share. So
No,
whatever you are doing, this is
Thank
additional.
you. But I wanted Swati
No,
to speak on that.
It is neither clarification nor extension. It's only additional information. Now coming to this, as I have already left a lot of information on the chat box, starting from the concept that Earth is not ours alone. As when you look into the definition part of the environmental law, which is all inclusive and basing upon the international conventions, and I don't think I require to, but however I will just cite it. The Environmental Protection Act defines environment as it includes water, air, land, and the interrelationship which exists between and among water, air, and land and human beings. and other living creatures, including microorganism and property. So this definition of environment is an all-inclusive one. And now the question is environmental degradation, protection, regeneration. That's what we have been discussing upon. So therefore, I told Earth is not ours, and Earth doesn't need us, but we need Earth. And second point is that man definitely has a fundamental right of freedom of equality and adequate conditions of life. In an environment of quality that permits life of dignity and well-being, he bears a solemn responsibility to protect and improve the environment for the present and future generation, and that is what we popularly call intergenerational equity. Second, on the environmental degradation, and industrialization has led to environmental degradation. But however, 100% pollution-free environment is something absurd. Without pollution, there is not going to be any development. The question of balance between the pollution or the environmental degradation and that of sustainable environment is a question of debate. So therefore, in this question of debate, one has to look into our constitution, Article 21 of Constitution, specifically declares the protection of life and liberty under Article 21, and life and liberty doesn't mean only mere animal existence, but existence in a proper manner, and for such existence you require all the other kinds of infrastructure, industrialization, everything. So therefore the striking balance that has to be taken up is how best you are going to pollute the industry, the environment, and how you are going to regenerate or rejuvenate or coop up this environment. That is what is the question, and for which we have a plethora of laws, that is at least 3-4 important laws that are to be mentioned here is Air Act, Water Act, and Comprehensive Environment Protection Act. In addition to this, in many enactments, we also come across the mention of protection of environment, conservation of environment, and see that this environment has to be protected, conserved, and has to be given back for future generation. And this is a not new concept, as Swati told, that it was encapsulated sustainable development that has come in the air in the world with that of 1972 Stockholm Declaration, for which India is a party. So that is how the environmental degradation and sustainable environmental issues are being taken up in many ways. So however, in spite of all those things, still the extinction of flora and fauna is ordered today. So therefore, whatever the laws that we are having might not be sufficient, because I am concerned only with the legal component. And people, scientists, prospective scientists like Swati may be doing about how best we can again bring back the environment, bring back the flora and fauna. But unless there is going to be a legal framework, a legal element, all our research and all that may be from the sociological aspect or economic aspect or scientific aspect. In science, I think Swati Mishra is doing her science research from chemistry oriented. I had a best friends who are coming from zoology, and they are more concerned about the protection of the small reaches and other things in small ponds also, because we have got a kind of biodiversity, and this biodiversity is such a peculiar thing that we have different biodiversity from one place to other place. It is invariably essential, because our earth is not our own. We are only having equal right with that of any other inferior animals. They are not inferior, you are not superior. All are creatures. So therefore, it is a responsibility of the so-called social animal, human being, also to look into the fate of the other animals. Otherwise, you will be prosecuted under animal laws. There are stringent animal laws. If you hunt, then you have to witness severe punishment, including maybe up to 10 to 20 years. In addition, 5 lakh rupees, and second subsequent offence 10 lakh rupees. That kind of legal actions are being taken up. But in spite of this, what is the concern of the people is that we have to discuss on this both from the scientific point of view, from sociological point of view, and also from the legal point of view. And you must enlighten, when you are going to dig, you are going to be contributory for the degradation of environment, contributory for pollution of environment. And because we have got, as you told, there is a theory that exists, polluter pay theory. So this has to be taken to consideration, and to sum up is that sustainable environment is the motto of today, and that is how the 2021 motto itself is sustainable environment, and that is what I would like to share with you. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. Thank you.
థ్యాంక్ యూ ప్రొఫెసర్ సుధాకర్ గారు. థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్. థ్యాంక్ యూ. ఇంకెవరైనా మిత్రులు మాట్లాడేవారు? ఇంకెవరైనా మిత్రులు?
Ma'am, Professor Lajwanti ji, would you like to give some observations on Swati's presentation, ma'am?
Thank you very much, Rauji, for inviting me to speak. And I must thank Swati, if I may use your first name, just Swati Mishra, for this wonderful, rather comprehensive presentation. I just had two things to say. One is that we often, and I'm saying this because, and I'm referring to the recent construction of a statue of Sardar Patel in a tribal area.
Yes,
where tribals have been actually, thrown out of their homes. Apart from that, the area which has been chosen for the whole development of what is called that Sardar Patel statue has actually harmed the biodiversity. So, one thing that we need to keep, and the tribals and the people, some people even I have joined the protests over there. Many, I haven't yet been taken into custody, but many of my fellow people have been taken into custody for some time, that you can't make this protest. So, to put everything in the hand of the people, I think is wrong. I think the people more than ever realize that we are losing out on resources. The second thing which I have also felt is that, and you don't need to, and this is something, I'm a political scientist and a political theorist, so I often wonder that how much has the government done? How do we assess? So it is okay to assess the carbon footprint of this, that, and the other, but how do we make an assessment of government policies? Perhaps they have got it wrong in a very big way. And the last, I said I will speak too, but something else comes to my mind. When we are responding to climate change and what is today called the crisis called the anthropogenic crisis or the Anthropocene, I think what we are still doing is looking at Earth, resources, air, including solar energy as in an instrumental fashion. So we are still looking at Earth, solar power, water in an instrumental way. So the philosophy hasn't changed. Yes, now you feel coal is leaving a carbon footprint. So let us use solar power. Your footprint, it's not leaving a footprint, but it is still looking at Earth in an instrumental fashion. And I think until this, and Mr. Sudhakar rightly said that to believe that only humans own the Earth, I think is absolutely unjustifiable. I think until the relationship between man and other living beings, and man and the way we look at Earth, and here when I mean man, I mean women also. So the way we look at our relationship, that even to say that I can take, but I should leave back something for the next generation is also very instrumental. It means power is in my hand. It's left to me. The Earth has no right. The Earth cannot say, sorry, I'm not ready to give you. Even if you want, you need, I am not ready to give. So for instance, if a person is in hospital today, he may need money, but I am not ready to share my money with him. I have a right. So until the relationship between Earth and humans does not change, I don't think we are in a position to respond to what we call climate change. Thank you very much for this wonderful lecture, which really set me thinking. And thank you, Rauji, for inviting me. Thank you,
ma'am. Thank you.
Professor
G.B. Reddy garu.
I would just like to highlight something.
Professor G.B. Reddy.
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Ram, sir. In fact, Swati, ma'am, I have a small question.
Yes, sir.
I have been listening to your presentation, a wonderful one. But sometimes protector becomes the predator.
Yes,
The
sir.
state which is supposed to protect and preserve, conserve the environment, when it is in the forefront of destroying the natural environment, especially because I'm bringing to your notice a direction given by the first court, that is division bench consisting of the Chief Justice of Telangana High Court, few days back, 1 month back, clearly directing the local authorities to stop any kind of illegal constructions in the full tank level areas of the lakes across the state of Telangana. But it appears that the governments, not only this government, recently I have seen Punjab government, in fact, constructing a residential complex for MLAs in clear violation of the environmental norms. Supreme Court had to, strike it down. Similar thing is happening everywhere. What is your take on that? When the protector becomes the predator, how we can fight this? I don't know whether it can be called pandemic or whatever, but certainly, it is the most undesirable thing. And what could be the solution? We have been fighting, but still, from the researchers' point of view, we would like to, hear you. Thank you.
Okay. So the illegal construction that's been happening, most of the time it's because of improper governing systems. We take bribes, and sometimes even the researchers, for example, like we talked about the Narmada and the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel statue being established. The research was handed over to a CDSA team in Pune, and they said that there is no forest area, like it's an open forest, so it should not be considered forest, and thus the construction can take place. So even the researchers, they are, promoting this kind of researches, but they do not see what are the other habitats that are being destroyed. When there is a shifting the tribal communities, destruction of the tribal habitats, there is a social inequity being created. And when we talk about forest or a habitat, they do not just include trees. They include various microorganisms, birds, and there is a circulation of that interlinked ecosystem is much more deeper than what meet our eyes. So poor governance is definitely to be blamed. And the governance or the policies or the actions that are being taken by the government, they are not sustainable most of the times. So we use the pictorial visualization method. What we see is what exists. We have to see the conceptual method. We have to develop the conceptual model when we talk about this project or the actions that are taking place. Okay, so some of the research institutes, some of the researchers, they back up the government. They agree with the government. Should not be done. For example, World Bank had invested into Amravati project in Andhra. It is one of the most unsustainable projects. So why was it invested in? The research reports that reach to them most of the time is wrong. The media does not sensationalize the impacts that are being caused. And one thing I forgot to talk about, nowadays there is a practice of having an environmental officer compulsorily in every corporate, in every industry. Just having one environment officer is not enough. A different environmental team that makes up the Department for Environment is needed. Now, one person can't do enough. So the anthropogenic crisis, yes, we have to adopt the method of the ecology, where everyone is equal. One does not dominate the other. So it has to be followed. And until we do not respect every living being and create a place for them, we cannot coexist. We cannot exist for a longer time. And so Sanjeev Reddy's question on regenerative farming. regenerative farming, it's before they could start it, they had to bring the land to become organic. So with the compost, the leaves, so they prepared the compost. They had to work on the land for a very long time, almost about 7.5 years. They have worked on it because they do not have many resources. The tribal women of Telangana do not have many resources available with them. So they had to depend on what was in their hand. So, in the period of 7.5 years, they could get the soil to be organic, uh, enriched soil with many macro and the micronutrients. Now, these women again did not have proper tools for farming. So they opted for regenerative method. Now, regenerative farming method involves like less tilling, so or no tillage method. So they can just sow the seed and take care in a proper way with water, and they have to depend even on the meteorology a lot for that. I have an article for the regenerative farming in detail. I can share with you. Now, GB Reddy sir's question, it's like when the protector becomes predator. Now, it's even a matter of consciousness along with the governance. So it's like if the administrative people, they take bribe and they allow this kind. So, sometimes even the public protest, they do not help. These actions, like when the higher ups, they approve it, the public voice does not matter. It's not just a matter of environmentalism or awareness, but also a matter of consciousness. Yes, James?
Yeah. Quickly, I want to add to the answer of the question of Professor Sanjeev Reddy's question. Um, Professor Sanjeev Reddy, good evening, if you're there. Well, he was asking about how we should, bring about more awareness to this whole subject. And while listening to your presentation, and after Professor Sanjeev Reddy's question, this thought came to my mind, that you have listed so many tools for sustainable development. Well, even though I'm aware of sustainable development, I'm aware of environmental issues. I was not aware of all these tools that are available, which was quite enlightening. Thank you for listing all those. And now, after looking at that software, my whole perspective of Onion has changed. Now that I feel, and I'll feel guilty that if I consume 1 kg of onion, I'm going to, I'm that about 1 kg of carbon. I'm leaving 1 kg of carbon footprint for 1 kg of onion, and
So no munching onions while having spirits, okay?
this is mind blowing. This is actually
Swati, you have disturbed our rhythm, Swati.
exactly. So I think, and also Swati was right about putting environmental researchers as ambassadors. They are the ones who's going to make us feel guilty that that this is how you're destroying the environment by your lifestyle. It's only the onion has got so much. 1 kg of onion is leaving 100% carbon footprint. What about the clothes we wear? What about the different kinds of the material we are using, the shoes we are using, the Nike or Adidas we're using. That's when you start calculating all of that, it's suddenly you're My stomach is really feeling, quite uneasy. Yeah. So, so this is, I this kind of information will, the people, the ambassadors to campaign on this would be the, people who have been working on environment subject, like Swati, who are researchers, who should also be appointed in all communities, and there should be a comprehensive policy by the government, that to encourage this information, and they should be given a lot of support to all this. And one more thing, I was reading an article uh, just only a couple of days ago, maybe 10 days ago, about why populist parties in Europe are succeeding, whereas the green parties, the vote share of green parties in Europe has been stable. It's not grown up, it's not gone down, but they're like they're just stable. And whereas some populist parties were able to capture power in some of the European nations, um, where I'm forgetting the author, so I'm just talking of what I'm remembering. So what the author says is that it is because that the messaging of green parties is very complex, that the audience, I mean the voters, it's quite difficult for the voter to understand what the green parties are saying. Whereas populist parties, their messages are very, very simplistic messages. "Oh, okay, they are these people are our enemies, and immigrants are our enemies." One sentence, and whereas to explain something, who has the patience to sit and look at the software, listen to a whole presentation, all that. So also the messaging strategies, I think we should come up with a lot of messaging strategies. There should be a lot, I mean people like us should really girdle our belts and get in and see how we can all cooperate with each other, and talk to political parties also, that these are important things. And then I think especially for a country like India, there should be like 100 green parties, and not even, I don't know if there is even one. So i I strongly urge Ramrao Garu to look into this.
Actually, until now, Congress is the only one. During the time of Indira Gandhi, we had Water Pollution Act. She was the one who brought environment to the constitution. And then there were tragedies which forced us to bring Environment Protection Act. And also, as we speak about these topics, uh, green parties are complex because we are not aware of our environment.
Mhm.
We, you know, okay, we are asking people who do not have access to the public, urban green spaces, urban forest. Okay, our urban forests are actually limited to some organizations, some institutions. They are not there on the streets. So how can you ask them to be practicing to go green? They haven't enjoyed the environment, and you're asking them not to pollute it, where the one who are enjoying the luxury of the environment, they are polluting it, and there is no restriction on them, because environment is considered rich people's. Okay, it is something the rich people should work on, not we as an individual. And for every common people to become environmentally aware, we have to give them equal luxury of the environment to enjoy and to understand. That is why we talk about environmental society. If the environmental societies are established at micro scale, people can become more engaged in it. Now, everyone would love to save a few bucks uh, while able to recycling, creating their own compost. But it is even some exhausting practice. You cannot do it all by yourself. You know, people have to societies have to come together, and it's only then, if you understand the environmental well, the green parties can work. And green, going green is something very simple. It's not a very complex system, but we make it complex because of our ignorance about it. And also, you need not give up onions. You need to maybe just reduce a little bit. You did not stop wearing Adidas or Nike. Indeed, Adidas or Nike, they have a very sustainable fashion clothing. So you should definitely go for it, but
Yeah.
also depend more on local goods, local brands of fashion. Uh, we are well aware of the Dhaka garment industry disaster, the biggest disaster in the garment industry ever to be caused. So, the big brands like Gucci, Versace, Louis Vuitton, all they have their manufacturing centers in Dhaka. Uh, because the labor is cheap, the raw materials they are getting is for very cheap price, the transportation, logistic is nothing as much as nothing as much as it would cost them to have it in the US or in the Europe. So now the architect had warned them that this is in the residential place. You cannot establish garment factories or anything here. The building cannot take it. And yet it was done. It was operating 24 hours. Later it resulted in disaster. And you know, you want to enjoy a luxurious clothing, do it. But it should not be by killing a 12-year-old or by creating societies altogether. So who takes up the responsibility for it? Well, we do not know about this thing to protest. There are so many things that are happening we are not aware of. So why is the media not focusing more on this thing? When the Kerala elephant incident happened, were the people actually at complete fault? Why were the rangers or the forest officers of the division? For them, they have to live. They have to make get the livelihood. Just they have to know how to uh, get enough for a week. We cannot be concerned about the environment. The rangers who were there, the forest officers, the IFS, none were questioned about that topic. It is necessary. Also, I think one of the funniest and the most hypocrite example that I remember, I think it was Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton had made a bag out of the crocodile skin, and it was went for the highest bid, and that amount was donated for the conservation of the alligators. So the amount that they made was the donated was only about 25% of what they profited. So, killing an alligator to save the alligators. We have to become conscious. That's why eco labels are there. Certifications are needed. What are the source of our products? These are the things, eco schools, eco societies, the media awareness, the eco labels, the marking certification system that needs to be accelerated. A proper governance system should be there. Environmental consciousness should be there. It's a long way until we do not come in terms with all these things altogether.
సార్ మనోజ్ రెడ్డితో మాట్లాడి క్లోజ్ చేస్తారు.
మనోజ్ రెడ్డి గారు, హలో మనోజ్ రెడ్డి గారు మాట్లాడండి ప్లీజ్.
గుడ్ ఈవినింగ్ ఎవ్రీవన్.
ప్లీజ్.
వెరీ గుడ్ ఈవినింగ్ ఎవ్రీవన్. అండ్ ముందుగా మా గురువు గారు పురుషోత్తమరావు గారికి నమస్కారాలు తెలుపుకుంటూ, వెరీ బ్యూటిఫుల్ సబ్జెక్ట్ టాపిక్ టుడే. రియలీ ద హ్యూమన్ బీయింగ్ came from the nature and he'll be the part of nature and he'll go back to the nature. Yeah. And what the human being think is that he is saving the nature and he is saving the planet Earth and all that. But the great people like Einstein, Isaac Newton, many people, the great people who invented many things, they all gone back to the womb of the nature. So I agree one thing with you, Mishraji, that the precautions to be taken in the real estate and all that, the zoom in the real estate and all that. Of course, I do accept it. But the day you stop urbanizing this rural areas, and that's the day the nature's outbusting will be stopped. What I personally feel is, and nature saves the earth and not the human being, and his duty is just to keep the nature intact. That's all, rather than disturbing it. Thank you so much for your beautiful analysis. Thank you, Ramana, so much.
Thank you, Manoj Reddy garu. Thank you.
So shall I say something?
Sir Hussain, you want to speak anything?
Yeah, actually for what Manoj Reddy sir said, yeah, it's very easy to live with the basics. But with the industrialization, we have come so far, it is not possible for us to take a round and go back to the basic. It's impossible. So what we have to do is that whatever happiness has been created, it needs to be paid attention, sorted out, and it has to be planned. Urbanization is nothing bad. It gives a different sort of culture that creates equality among all, and it paves a path for development. But when this urbanization or industrialization is not planned, that is when it starts affecting us. Like Singapore is one of the most dense city in the world. How are they able to achieve the livability index as well as the environmental index? It is through sensible urban planning. No, it's not just, it has to be sensible, it has to be dynamic, it has to think of the future, it has to think of many generations to come. And as Professor Sudhakar had said, actually, I'm pursuing my PhD in climate change, and most of the times I'm concerned with the human settlements and ecosystem. But I actually do not know the names of the birds of the species most of the time, but I tend to learn more about the biodiversity. A biodiversity defines us in more ways than we know. So it's just my passion, and I feel it's very important for us to pay attention to conserve them as well while we're talking about the other human aspects.
Thank you, Swati. It was a wonderful presentation, though exhaustive, but you have taken your time. You have done an excellent job. I'm happy. And almost everybody on board liked your presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
I just want to add one thing. I believe several of Swati's colleagues have been affected with COVID. So we wish them all good health and
Yes, a speedy recovery.
a speedy recovery, and please stay safe, everyone in your campus.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's it, Srinivas sir.
Sir, okay, conclude yours. Mere conclude చేయండి sir, please. Vote of thanks చెప్పండి.
Close చేయండి సార్.
Sir, okay. తెలంగాణ జన వేదిక జూమ్ ఆన్లైన్ మీటింగ్ కు విచ్చేసి కీలకోపన్యాసం ఇచ్చినటువంటి స్వాతి మిశ్రా గారికి మరియు ఇవాళ పాల్గొన్నటువంటి నలుగురు ప్రొఫెసర్లు పాల్గొనడం అనేటువంటి నేషనల్ ఇంటర్నేషనల్ సెమినార్ గానే మనం పరిగణించవచ్చు. చాలా మంది ఇంట్రెస్ట్ గా విన్నవారైనా కూడా ముఖ్యంగా ప్రొఫెసర్ సంజీవ్ రెడ్డి, ప్రొఫెసర్ లజ్వంతి చటాని, ప్రొఫెసర్ సుధాకర్ గారు, ప్రొఫెసర్ జిబి రెడ్డి గారు, మిస్టర్ జేమ్స్ ప్రశాంత్, మనోజ్ రెడ్డి గారు అండ్ ఇతర మిత్రులు అందరూ కూడా వారు మాట్లాడడం జరిగింది. అదే విధంగా వారి యొక్క అభిప్రాయాలను కూడా చెప్పడం జరిగింది. వారందరికీ ఇందులో పాల్గొన్నటువంటి వాటి కార్యక్రమంలో పాల్గొన్నటువంటి ప్రతి ఒక్కరికి పేరు పేరున ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేసుకుంటూ ఈనాటి ఈ కార్యక్రమం ఇంతటితో ముగుస్తుంది. వచ్చే వారము మరొక అంశంతో కలుసుకుంటామని తెలియజేసుకుంటూ అందరికీ నమస్కారాలు, ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేసుకుంటూ సెలవు తీసుకుంటాం.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. If this pandemic continues to wage a war on humanity, we all have to be stay safe, and probably we have to think whether to have these Zoom meetings when there is a pandemic and when there is a huge loss of human loss. I think we should also think. I'll come back to you all later sometime during the week. Thank you so much.
అన్నా ఉంటా, నమస్తేనా.